Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Historian Channel. I'm your host, Lincoln, and sorry for the long wait. There's just wasn't a lot going on. Didn't really think about what kind of content I could really make. A lot of people. This is obviously the least prevalent time in terms of news in the NFL, and obviously, I just like to talk about on the field and how these teams are going to be going into this year or going every year, and talk about the draft and stuff, and talk about the history of the game. And right now, it's more like off the field stuff with Sean Watson and Daniel Snyder. So didn't really want to get into any of that. So sorry for a long wait. We're going to go by each conference and go in each division. Today, we're just going to cover the NFC and AFC North and go over the roster right now currently. Today is the 1st of July. We'll try to do this every week, every Friday. And and then we'll go over their schedule and what I predict in my way too early, I guess, prediction of the season. Obviously, things can change, and I didn't want to go back and change any of my things based off records. So some teams, you might think, wow, that's a little low. It's not my final. It's just a first try of the season, see how it goes. Just get a decent idea how tough or easy these schedules are. So let's start with the Bears. Justin Fields, obviously second-year quarterback. The backup quarterback situation isn't that great, but, Trevor Siemian obviously played last year. You got Nathan Peterman as well. Running backs, I thought you got a bunch of fine players. Like David Montgomery can catch the ball, can run, just isn't going to be a breakaway runner or any long runs, really. And has a solid back, getting the ball a lot. And I don't know if that's their plan because, they're going to run that, I guess you'd call it zone running scheme and stuff like that. It's going to be similar to the Packers of last year. And if you look at their weapons, obviously a lot of people talk about these weapons or lack of weapons. And Mooney's obviously young receiver. He's definitely the guy here in the receiving corps. And then they don't got a lot else. Obviously, you have Byron Pringle, who has some off-the-field stuff, so might even get suspended for a couple games. Phyllis Jones, he's drafted. Hard to say, I think he's like 26 or whatever, played a lot of years in college. And I'm not sure if he's just going to be a special team guy. I obviously drafted him to be more than that. And there's not a lot of receiver depth on this team, so you think he could probably get that number 3 receiving role, but, you can name me the same Browns been in the league this is his 5th year, I believe. Got Tajay Sharp, he's played with the Titans, Vikings, and teams like that. Daz Newsome, they drafted last year. So, no superstar. And David Moore is even on the team. Dante Pettis. They got players that played in the NFL. And then some guys they just drafted in the last 2 years, but not much else. Got Cole Kmet, solid tight end. Without going through and ranking tight ends, I would think he's a top 16 tight end, top half of the league. They got their fullback. Line, hard to say because Jason Peters played the best, and he was like almost 40 years old. I think he was 39 last year. He played the best out of all the linemen they had, I believe, just off the top of my head. They lost one other lineman that went to Pittsburgh, and they got Cody Whitehair still. You got Lucas Patrick from the Packers, and you got some guys they need to prove it. Tevin Jenkins they drafted in the second round, I believe, last year. So not a lot of depth. Got some experience there, but no superstar, no guy I'm going to say, yeah, he's going to make the Pro Bowl. Whitehair has a chance. Tevin Jenkins has some of the talent. I guess he could. Didn't show a lot first year, but again, a lot of question marks on the Bears offense. There's really no proven guy. I mean, Darnell Mooney, you can expect you can think he's going to be a low-end number 1 at the least, and if that's what he turned into, that's all right where they got him in the draft. They might need more than that, though, with the guys behind him. Dave Montgomery, solid player. Cole Kmet, solid. Just Nothing really be excited about other than Justin Fields. Obviously, you hope he's going to be great. Defensively, well, we want to go a little bit faster. Defensive line, I wouldn't say is a great. Robert Quinn, if he even plays for this team, he had a lot of sacks, but he's coming off like 2 years ago with 2 sacks, and then playing a few more games, he got 18 or whatever this year, or in 2021. So again, sacks don't mean everything. I think a lot of it is just pressures and kind of low lucky. He's had some. It's not a fluke because he's done it before. But if you look, you got Mario Edwards behind him. They don't got a lot, especially Robert Quinn's gone because he might be traded or whatever. A lot of teams will probably look at Robert Quinn as plug him in if you need a need at that position, or even a guy in rotation. You maybe have your third pass rusher at his age. He'd be great for a team like that. Linebacker's not great other than Roquan Smith. Borderline Pro Bowl type player. Maybe he's a Pro Bowl player. I don't know if he's an All Pro kind of guy, but still a really good player. Corners, I like Jalen Johnson. I don't know what he'll eventually become. He's played a few years. Fine with him being your number one. He's not a superstar, at least not at the moment, but not a lot behind him. And Tavon Young could be their nickel corner, but slot corner. Again, not a lot. Brisker, solid player, smart player. First year, I don't know how he's going to be, but I just can't see him being a Pro Bowl or superstar. I mean, like, at best, you might get like an Eric Whittle type career. He just doesn't have the athletic traits to become that kind of player. And then they got Eddie Jackson, up and down career so far. At his high points, he could be really good and really dominant. And we'll not go over special teams just for this video. But again, I don't look at this team as something great. Just go with the schedule. They got the Chiefs, probable loss. Seattle. Again, who's the quarterback? Is it Geno Smith? Is it Drew Lock? Is it someone else? They got a chance. They played them last year. Nick Foles played, so it's a little different story, different teams. So they possible win. Browns, who knows if they're Deshaun Watson or not at this point. They could win, unlikely, but could. Browns are way more talented. Oh, sorry, this is preseason. My bad. I've been going. They got the 49 week 1. Then they got the Packers. Probably losses, both of them. Usually Green Bay, they might compete in one of them. Last year, they kind of competed in both games, so I'm not going to say they get blown out by these teams. They played 49ers pretty tough, too, last year. So, again, I'm just here saying probable loss, probable win. So, 2 probable losses. Texans are about even match there. Giants, maybe even match. 2 possible 2 wins. Vikings are probably going to at least win 1, if not both games against them. Washington, I think Washington's a little bit better than the Bears. But now the question, New England, probable loss. Dallas is a probable loss. Miami, even though I think Fields might be better than Tua, I would actually take Fields over Tua. The Dolphins are just way more talented. It's not about just the quarterback. So Detroit, again, these are even games. I'm going to say they're going to split with Detroit. Atlanta, it's tough. I think Atlanta has a little bit more talent than people give them credit for, but still, they're about even. The Jets, I think the Jets are a little bit better than the Bears. And Packers, kind of talked about that. The Eagles are a pretty good squad. Bills are really good. And we talked about Detroit and like me. So that's how their schedule is. Going through it very quickly, I had them going 4-13, 2-4 in the division. Again, I know Vegas or whatever. I don't want to really talk about just Vegas, but I think it's around 6 wins. It's going down. So a lot of people are not expecting Chicago to get over 6 wins, which is fair. Detroit, they got basically a guy that they're just going to hope is the starter for this year, Jared Goff. They have really nothing behind him. And obviously Tim Boyle played a little bit and David Blau. Swift, hasn't really broken out yet, but they're going to give him the ball. And Jamal Williams, they're going to give him the ball. Craig Reynolds, they gave the ball a little bit. Jefferson at the end of the year, got a little bit of touches. So they're definitely going to run the ball. That's what they want to do. And they got some weapons now compared to last year. Amon-Ra St. Brown returning off his rookie year. Was pretty good his rookie year as a slot receiver mostly. DJ Chark, an outside guy with Jacksonville. Who knows, 1 year deal. They're just taking a chance on him. Jameson Williams, he probably won't play the first half of the year, but once he's playing, this is not a bad receiving group with TJ Hawk. It's a pretty good tight end. Again, fullback, not really going to discuss too much, but they're going to use a fullback. They're going to have that bounce attack. Line is a pretty good line. Vitai's been in the league for a while with the Eagles as well. Got a contract here. Pretty good one. Slowly drafted high in the draft last year. Taylor Decker is pretty good. Frank Brown now, coming back from injury. Hope he's pretty good. And, so the line is pretty good. Offensively, eventually they're going to probably get a different quarterback, but Jared Goff, top 32 quarterback probably in the league. So, the offense isn't terrible, but it's not anything spectacular. Defensively, I think the defensive line, especially maybe against the run, is going to be pretty good. The only great pass rusher they got is probably Aiden Hudson. I don't think he's going to be this 20-sack guy, really. I think he can be a very good player, especially against the run. I don't think he's a superstar pass rusher, but again, he's probably better than what they got. And it's more than what they had before. Charles Harris is also a decent backup they can use. And they got Pascal, too, who they drafted. Again, run defender, really. Linebackers, Anzalone's been in the league with the Saints and stuff. I don't think they're great, I hear. Decent against the run. I don't think they got a lot they can cover, though, linebacker-wise. And Rouzarie, I think that's how you say it. Amani Rouzarie. He's been a pretty good corner. He had a lot of picks last year. Jeff Okuda's come back injured. He hasn't really shown anything. I don't have high hopes on him. They have Mike Hughes. They got probably going to play the slot corner. Malfania, they also drafted. Looks like he's going to be playing safety back up. They got Kirby Joseph also in the draft. Their safeties, not great, but you could do with it. So I don't think this is an ultra-talented team. Again, looking at their schedule, skipping preseason this time. Got the Eagles. We saw last year was mismatch all around. Sure won't be like that, but we wouldn't expect them to win. Washington, don't expect them to really beat them. Minnesota, see how they got the chance. New England, Dallas, Miami, probably not. Green Bay. They could play, they can have a game with Green Bay, but I just don't expect them to win either of them unless they do play at the end of the year. So maybe Green Bay's resting starters like last year. But in Chicago, probably going to split with them. Giants got a shot. Buffalo, probably not. Jacksonville, maybe, about the same. Minnesota, they played, close games against them, so could win one of those. Jets, I think Jets a little bit better than Panthers. I think the Panthers are a little bit more talented, but I think there's more consistency and more guys you expect to do something with the Lions and the Panthers. Panthers, a lot of question marks, especially offensively. And back to the division. So, again, looking at what I thought about the same as the Bears. Thought they're going to get another division win, which is pretty much because I had the Packers resting starters. So, about the same, 4-13. So let's go to Green Bay. Obviously, this is expected a team that's been in the playoffs and winning 13 games 3 straight years. Obviously, one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love's backup, and they just cut their other quarterback in Banker. So they had Danley Etling, which I think Banker, they just cut just to give him another shot on another team. And they could always pick him up if he doesn't make a team. Knows their offense stuff. But again, that's little importance to this year. Running back, one of the best running back duos in the league. And then Kylan Hill's coming off injury. Patrick Taylor played a little bit. So they have a chance to have another, like Kylan Hill could replace Aaron Jones because this is probably his last year with the Packers. Alan Lazard, he's probably going to be their number one. It's a low, very, I wouldn't even call him a number two really, but they don't really have a number one. And could they have guys that could be the number one? Yeah, Christian Watson can be that number one. I don't know if it's me year one. You also have Romeo Dobbs, which I think is how you say it. I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways, but I think it's Dobbs. He's that has that Adams type physique and movement. So if Watson doesn't pan out or isn't great year one, they have Romeo Dobbs in year one. With he might be more consistent and more the type of receiver. He might not be the big play guy, but he can do everything. And then Sammy Watkins, fourth overall pick, less than a decade ago. A lot of injuries, But again, he before these injuries and stuff, he was definitely a number one receiver. I don't know if he is now at his age and all the injuries. But again, even if he's number two, you got two number twos pretty much. You got Randall Cobb, who's probably low end three at this point. And Amari Rodgers, heard good things about him coming this year out of camp and stuff. But Cobb's probably going to be the guy over Rodgers. But Rodgers, then more talented, younger, could eventually be the replacement for Cobb. And then these other guys, Torrey, the 7th round pick, and Taylor Winfrey, they played a little bit last year, but Rico Gathers is actually a corner now, so I don't know why this is outdated, so don't look at that. Tight end, we're not sure if Tunyon's going to be ready for the season. So there's going to be a lot of DeGuara and Mercedes Lewis, who's in his 17th year. Tyler Davis could even be that guy. So don't be surprised if they're going to have a group of guys trying to be that tight end for them until Tunyon's fully ready to go. Bakhtiari probably going to be ready week one. We're not still sure. And that's the question mark. Is Tunyon, Bakhtiari, and Jenkins even going to be ready for the year? And if not so, then definitely questions in the offensive line at least early on. Like they have guys that should be good, but you're missing an all-pro and a Pro Bowler. And I think Jenkins even has the ability to he could be Pro Bowl any position on the line. So you're missing those two guys maybe early on. That's could hurt them. But, this line's really good and it has a lot of depth. They lost a lot of people, but still replaced in the draft. John Runyon, solid guy. Josh Myers was rookie, didn't play a ton, but because of injury. But he looks like he could be one of the best centers in the draft class last year. Royce Newman, probably a fringe starter, but they drafted guys like Sean Ryan, and they have Jake Hansen on the roster for a while. Van Lanen was on the roster for a while. They drafted Rasheed Walker in the 7th round. They also have Zach Tom, who could be that guy. And anyway, if Jenkins is healthy, he might be the right tackle. Sean Ryan could be the right tackle. Like a lot of depth. Yosh Nijman could be the right tackle. Yosh Nijman played all right last year, being an undrafted guy they developed for a few years. So defensively, this is the most depth Green Bay's had on the line for a long time. Dean Lowry been a starter for them. Kenny Clark, pretty good player, Pro Bowler. Jaron Reed's had some really good years. Last year didn't really fit the Chiefs' scheme, but still did fine. Came on late in the year. They had Devontae Wyatt in the 1st round. Slane they drafted last year. Jonathan Ford got in the 7th round. I don't know if he's going to make the team. But a lot of depth. Definitely quality guys. They should have a pass rush as well. You get some pass rush from the inside interior. A lot of teams can do that. Preston Williams, good, solid player. Sean Gary could be a superstar outside linebacker for this team, both of them. They're going to probably play a lot of the two defensive linemen, the outside linebackers on the field, and then have Campbell definitely on the field, and then Quay Walker, 1st-round pick as well. Chris Barnes might be maybe filling in the rundowns maybe for Quay Walker, but we'll see. You got Ty Summers for special teams, Tariq Carpenter special teams probably. There's not a lot of depth on the outside linebackers. Got Tipa and Randy Ramsey and Kingsley Enagbari or I've heard it pronounced different ways. Either way, I know he's known as JJ for that team. Jonathan Garvin they've had. So, questions there. Maybe they get someone. I know I talked about Robert Quinn earlier. I don't see them trading them to the Packers, but maybe he's cut. They're looking for a guy, Justin Houston, whoever's out there. Corner's really good. 3 great corners. And got Stokes, who looked really good. Only had one game he really struggled. I think he also gave up a touchdown to McLaurin. But the game he struggled was the Jefferson game, which really he was in position. Jefferson made the plays jumping over him and stuff. And that's one of the best receivers in the league. So played good everywhere else, every other game. Rasul Douglas, again, half a year, he pretty much was close to being a Pro Bowler. He played the full year, he's probably a Pro Bowler. Jair Alexander barely played last year, top paid corner in the league now. You're arguably the best corner in the league. So you got those 3, and you got Amos and Savage. Savage has been up and down, but he can be really good. He can be not as great, but even an average Savage, this is one of the best defensive back groups in the league. Amos has always been good. They don't have a lot of depth, again, behind them as well. But really good team in Green Bay. They open up with the Vikings. The Bears should win both of those games. It's in Minnesota. They had troubles against the Vikings usually once a year. I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting it to be a close game, but you never know. 2 years ago, when Rodgers was, first MVP out of the group the last 2 years, so his 3rd MVP in total. He torched them in that first week opening the season. So anything can happen. I think they're going to be 2-0 though. Then they have Tampa Bay. Probably going to lose. Just they don't match as well with them. But again, Tampa Bay is not as good as years past. Roster wise, there's some more unproven. Like possibly those guys that are unproven become superstars. But I think probably going to lose. And then I think they're better than New England. Definitely better than the Giants. And the Jets, I could see them giving some issues because they're similar scheme and know each other very well. But in terms of, you got Mike and Matt LaFleur. They were in preseason last year. They worked out. They had a group. They worked the week before the preseason game. So showed a lot of familiarity between them. Washington, they played them. The score probably didn't indicate how close that game really was. So Washington's probably about the same, if not better. So it could give you a game. Buffalo, they're probably going in Buffalo. It's probably going to be a very tough game for Green Bay. Still possible. Detroit probably going to win. Dallas, they had pretty good success over the last decade. It's a weird thing because, Mike McCarthy's, I don't know if he's going to have really, sometimes you had the Brett Favre, Mike Holmgren thing where Homer came in and gave a lot of issues for Favre, but I see that being completely opposite. I think, I don't know, I just have a feeling Rodgers would have more, they're going to have less familiarity knowing how to stop Rodgers and in the Packers offense than, vice versa. So either way, I think they're going to be Dallas. Tennessee, they, 2 years ago they played them in the snow, pretty much dominated them in that game. They're home again. Thursday game. Go in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a pretty good team, so I still think Green Bay's going to win a lot of these games. They have a lot of success against the Rams, so they ain't going to be them. In Miami, late in the season, that could give them trouble. I know the Packers have struggled against Florida teams for whatever reason the last couple of years. I don't know if that's going to mean anything. And then maybe the rest and starter for Detroit, but they play Minnesota. I think they're going to lose at least one, if not 2 divisional games, even though the division's not that great. And the only real team I think they could lose to really are the Bucks and the Bills that are expected, I guess, make sense. They could always have a fluke game against a Washington or a Miami team, but let's go to Minnesota though. Again, actually before that, Packers record 14-3. I think go 5-1 in the division. Minnesota. I think I can go over this team pretty quick. It's pretty similar core players. Right guard might be different. Who knows? Ed Ingram could potentially get that spot, or Wyatt Davis. So I don't really think I need to go over this crew. It's pretty much the same group. Different offense. Kevin O'Connell is going to be the guy in charge instead of Mike Zimmer, and still pretty much similar scheme. Offensive line looks better than last year. I don't really see a lot of depth on the team though. Eric Kendrick is getting up there in age, but still a pretty good player. He drafted Asamoah, which I don't know what he's going to offer in the run aspect of the game. And they got Jordan Hicks, really good player. Zadarius Smith they got from Green Bay. Going to 3-4, so a little different. Usually that takes a year, a half a year at least. So could struggle, but a lot of similar, not a lot of new changes. Sorry I'm going too quick over the Vikings, but especially if you like them, but it's more a coordinator change, scheme change, especially defensively. And they don't have a lot of depth is the thing, but they could beat a lot of good teams. They're inconsistent, and that's how they are. So Packers, Eagles, tough start, but then they always struggle against Detroit. So this is, again, tough start to get Saints. Bears, they should win. Again, in Miami, playing Arizona, playing Washington, all right team, about their level. Going to Buffalo, playing Dallas and New England. Not easy games. The Jets, the Lions, they're better than them. Colts probably better than Minnesota. They got the Giants. And again, they wrap it up with these teams. So, not a very easy schedule for the Vikings. I have them going 6-11, 2-4. Honestly, I would probably expect them to do a little bit better than this. But that's how I had them falling. Let me get a drink really quick, and we'll go back and do the AFC North. Okay, so Baltimore. A lot of guys off injury. Honestly, Tyler Huntley played played all right down the stretch, but with Dobbins back, Gus Edwards back. They got Mike Davis as well. They're really going to run the ball. Going to really use these tight ends. They got 3 in the draft, I believe. Or maybe 2 in Kohler and Likely. Likely's more of a receiver, I would put him as. He's not on the ball, really. But they got Nick Boyle. They got Mark Andrews, a really good player. Or maybe arguably top 5 tight end. Receivers, you got Bateman, former first-round pick. This is his second year. Duvernay, Prochet. If one of those guys can pan out, they're only going to play probably a lot of 2 receiver sets, if that, maybe 1. So you don't need a lot of receiver depth. So these people these other receivers, you're not expecting much, but they're probably not going to need them. They're not even probably going to make the team. So I think a Patrick Ricard, that's another guy they might use a lot. Line-wise, Stanley's coming back. Or Moses, the guy. Got Juwan James. Potentially, I don't know what's his situation now. Hasn't really played in a while. Leonard Baum, really good. Arguably the best center, at least run blocking the draft. And you got Zeitler. And you got some potential depth to compete for left guard, which it's probably going to be Phillips. But I think this is a really good team. And then we're going to the defense. Defensive line, big. That's how they want them. I don't think there's any superstar anymore. Calais Campbell's not that kind of player. Michael Pierce, he got back. I know he got hurt last year, so who knows. Tyus Bowser, a really good run player. Got David Jabu. Not probably expect to do much this year because of the injury, but eventually you can get him as to be a pass rusher to help this team because they got Odafe away, Jason away, however you want to use it or put his name down. Away is a solid pass rusher, definitely a good run player. There's a lot of good run players. They're going to force you to throw the ball. And they got some good corners with Marlon Humphrey, one of the best in the game. They got Marcus Peters coming back from injury. They got Armour Davis in the draft from Alabama. in the 4th round, which I think is a little crazy that he went that long to get, took that long to get drafted. Safety wise, they have Chuck Clark and Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton. Great secondary. Like, I don't know why I know people like the Bengals because they went to the Super Bowl, but don't forget this team had a lot of injuries, and even with the injury, Lamar not playing his best football last year, you don't really expect that to happen. And they didn't really have the protection for him last year as well. So, great team. And let's go over their schedule. Jets, I think there's a potential they could lose to the Jets. The Jets, they both kind of are very similar. I think this is going to be a close game. Miami-wise, I like Miami. I just think Baltimore kind of matches up and can play the kind of game against Miami, make it a low-scoring game at least. Again, they have all AFC East teams. New England, I think they're probably going to be New England. We've seen a lot of these Ravens New England games. I know we had an upset of New England against Baltimore, but a couple years back. But I think Buffalo, they play. At worst, I see them going 2-2 down the stretch, and I don't know. Maybe they can give the Bills some problems. Like, it could be 4-0. I doubt it, but the Bengals, I expect them to lose to the Bengals at least once, if not twice. We only really got to see one game of them last year with the Ravens as banged up as they were. Where they were somewhat healthy, even though they never were the whole year. And in that game, it was close at half. It was tied, actually, I think. And then they just got away from them. And the second game, Joe Burrow shredded them again and wasn't really the same Baltimore team. So, and if you remember, the year prior, Baltimore shut out the Bengals and Burrow. I know it's a totally different team, but I wouldn't question them beating the Bengals at least once. Giants could have some decent run D, but I don't see how they would play Baltimore and win that game. Cleveland, again, I don't know the quarterback situation. It's so hard to rank Cleveland. We're going to have to go over them soon anyway in this video. So, yeah, and then we'll go to the Tampa Bay. That's a tough game for them. Saints, tough game for them. Probably going to split those games either way. I don't know how that would go, but probably lean them losing to Tampa Bay and winning the Saints game, but who knows? Panthers, Jags, I think they can destroy those teams. Broncos, they played them last year. It was somewhat close, low scoring, but I think Baltimore's going to win that game. I know Russell wasn't on this team. It's different. Get a lot of differences. I don't like that you always use last year, but just giving you my reasoning. And they're going to be Pittsburgh at least once, if not twice. Even though I think they're going to be close games. Again, Browns, probably going to lose to the Browns once. Again, Deshaun Watson's spend the whole year. Maybe they can beat them twice. Land they should beat. And again, I already talked about these teams. So, a little bit surprising, but I did have Baltimore going 12-5, 3-3 in the division. So, I think that's fair. 10 to 12 wins. Wouldn't be surprised. So we got the Bengals. The offensive line is the only thing I'm really good over in the tight end. New tight end and Hayden Hurst, who lost Uzamo. Left tackle's the same. Every other position's different. Way big improvement for the offensive line. Should really help Burrow. But the chances are that everyone's going to stay healthy this year. I don't know the case of that in terms of receivers, running back, quarterback. But again, we'll see. That's a line all right. They lost Ogunjobi, so it could hurt them a little bit. Defensive line's pretty much the same. Linebacker's pretty much the same. Defensive backs pretty much the same. They got Daxton Hill in the draft. Like, they won 10 games, I believe, last year, 11, whatever it was. And could they win one more game? Yeah. But you have to remember their schedule is so much tougher than the year before, as we're going to go over right now. In Pittsburgh, they had one tough game against them last year. Pittsburgh's honestly a little bit better. I just don't think their schedule lines up as easy as last year. Because you have to think, Trubisky or Pickett is probably be better than the Roethlisberger they had last year. Again, we'll go over Pittsburgh soon. Again, they know there's a lot of overlapping. Dallas probably will beat them, but again, I viewed them pretty similar, honestly. Bengals a little bit better, but not a big difference in the talent level and stuff. Jets, they lost the Jets with Mike White. I think they don't play the same scheme. I think they're going to beat the Jets. Miami, they're probably going to beat. I think they're a little bit better. They're about the same, honestly, but the quarterback is the big difference. Joe, then they play the Raven we talked about. Saints, tough, but I think they could probably beat the Saints. Atlanta should beat. They lost to the Browns twice. I think they'll at least lose one of them, if not both. I think the Browns just match up well. They should beat the Panthers. Talked about the Steelers already. Titans. I think the Titans played a very bad game in the playoffs. I think the Titans can probably win that game, and I think they're a little bit better other than the receiving core. I think it's pretty much a better Tennessee team overall besides that hit at the receiver position. But, just the receivers honestly can be more productive if they just – A.J. Brown and Julio Jones is not – the names are bigger than Robert Woods and Treylon Burks, but I don't think it's a big drop-off in what they did last year compared to what's probably going to happen this year. Like Kansas City, they beat them twice, but I think Kansas City I would lean them in that game. Tampa Bay, I think that they're going to have issues against Tampa Bay. New England, I don't think there's a big difference. I still think the Bengals are better, but they're going in New England. I guess I could go Bengals, but again, it's tough, and then very two tough games at the end. Again, their record's surprising. Again, if I went back at these records and these schedules, probably would find maybe not ways to get games to the Bengals, but I would look at the schedule closely. I just did this one time and went through it, and I had the Bengals missing the playoffs at 9-8. So I don't think it's crazy to miss it, but they're a fringe team just because their schedule and the division are going to be way better. Now, surprisingly, Browns. I did the schedule when they did Deshaun Watson, so the record might be different than then I might how I might act like they are or how good they are. So they have a bunch of quarterbacks. Again, is it Brissett playing? Is it Mayfield? Is it Watson? I can't tell you right now. So I'll also have to go over if they have Watson or they don't. That's the quickest way I could do this. Running backs, a really good run. They got a trio of running backs that are really good, and I know they like Ford as well. We played a little bit. Cooper's better than what they had last year. That's improvement. Donovan Peoples-Jones. They lose Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. Half of your Odell, if you want to even call it that. To get Amari Cooper, pretty much. That's the trade-off. And so I probably see improvement. I think Cooper's just a way better player than those two did for the Browns and what the production was. And then they drafted David Bell, who I think he'd be a solid slot player. I don't think he's a superstar. Can line up anywhere. Kind of smaller dude. Not skinny, but they're just short. But he should have good hands and he could be a Jarvis Landry pretty much. And they Donovan Peoples-Jones, like I said. Anthony Short's some speed guy they have. Jakeem Grant they got for special teams and maybe even some gadget plays. Njoku they signed. They got Harrison Bryant. They like to do 2 tight ends. And the line's pretty good. I know they lost Shredder, but injuries also affected this line last year. So I think a really good team offensively. I was saying they're pretty good category. Defensively, they're really good, I think. I think the scheme's simplistic, but that's how they do it. They want to be simple. Got Myles Garrett, Clowney, Chase Winovich is on this team now. They got Stephen Weatherly. Good backups. Defensive tackles, I don't think are not top end great, but they don't got a lot of depth. But hopefully, their guy they drafted and Winfrey can help them out. They got Sheldon Day as well. It's not terrible. No superstar. Worcester Carmel, I really liked. He's perfect for this division. He's going to help him against Lamar Jackson. And Mobile Corey has a lot of speed, can cover. You got Anthony Walker who can cover. Pretty good player. You got Taki, pretty good. He's solid, not super athletic, but corner Denzel Ward, one of the best in the game. You got Greg Newsome they drafted. You got Grady Williams they drafted in recent years. Those three are going to be pretty good. They got pretty good safety play. They got pretty much three pretty good safeties in Rodney Harrison, John Johnson, and Grant Delpit. So really good defense, really good team. This is why I'm really high on the Browns. If they have Watson, if they don't, Mayfield should still be able to help them get to the playoffs, if not close to it. So I don't think this is just because they have Watson, they're a first-round bye type team or winning the division. I expect even with Mayfield to get a wild card spot if he does play the whole year for them. And Brissett, if they don't have him, they probably barely miss the playoffs. That's kind of good how good this team is. So let's go to the schedule. Steelers, way more talent than them. Probably split. Oh, sorry, I missed the first two games. Got Panthers, Jets. Should win those games. Lance should win that game. Chargers, I would probably say they're the favorites over the Chargers. They had a very good, high-scoring game last year, if you remember. Watson's playing, they probably are the favorite. They don't. It's probably very close, but the Chargers are probably the favorite, is my guess. New England killed them. I'm going to say New England wins that game. Baltimore, yeah, I think they're going to split one of those. I think they probably beat the Bengals once, if not twice. I think if they Watson, they probably win both. If they don't, they probably split it. Miami, they probably win with Watson. Again, this is hard to do. These teams coming up, they probably lose both. But either way, they probably beat the Texans. Talked about the Bengals, Ravens. Browns are tough. The Saints are a tough team, but I think the Browns are better. Again, it just depends who the quarterback is. Washington, they're better in Washington. Even with Brissett, I think they are about the same. And then they should win. Again, I think the schedule is favorable. This is why I have people might think it's crazy. Could see him winning 13 games with Watson. Again, he's coming off a year or so where he didn't play and he's suspended. That will affect this. But I'm just going off of Watson played every game. That's the record. And I'm expecting the Watson prior. Maybe the year off does affect him a little bit. So, again, they're hard to pick. I don't know what the Vegas thing is. I guess a lot, lines aren't even done for the Browns because of this situation, but I would probably lean over whatever it is. I haven't seen it. Pittsburgh. I think the schedule's tough this year, but I think their team's probably better than last year, even though they barely made it in the playoffs. Trubisky, Pickett, whoever, I don't really know who's going to start, honestly. About the same type of quarterbacks, honestly. And I'm just going to go with Trubisky as the starter. Let's just go with that. Harris, I think, is going to be very productive. He's going to get the ball a ton. I don't really like the backups too much here. They've been on the team for a while, though. But I think it's going to be Harris, feed him, pass game, run game, whatever they're going to give it him. Receiver-wise, Deontay Johnson, low-end number one, you can say. Claypool could be a low-end number one. Don't know if he's really shown that, but has the ability to. George Pickens, they drafted in the second round, I believe. Could be really good for them. He's kind of like Claypool a little bit. Can do everything, very tall. And he's even lean. He's probably even faster than Claypool. I mean, they're about the same, I guess. Again, Pickens was hurt, coming off an injury in last year of college, so it affected his speed a little bit. Calvin Austin can be a gadget slot player, like explosive type guy. Really help the special teams. They're going to use him a lot, slot and stuff. Very exciting. This receiver I really like. Got Miles Boykin and Anthony Miller as well. People don't and they got Steven Sims, if you remember him from Washington. Right now they have a 9th position receiver, but got a lot of guys here. And Pittsburgh usually does pretty good receiver. Probably, I think he's above average tight end. Put in the Cole Kmet section or area right now. And the line's better than last year. Big difference, James Daniels from the Bears. These other guys are going another year in the system, so got some okay depth, nothing great. Offensively, you got Ogunjobi. Next one, Olulu. Got Hayward. You got Chris Wormley. Stephon Tua just retired a few weeks ago. Pretty good at the line, but not spectacular. Not going to get a great pass rush or anything, but got decent guys. You got T.J. Watt. It's going to be the main pass rush guy on this team. Alex Highsmith, Jannard Avery. Probably rotate a little bit. Miles Jack, Devin Bush, pretty good. Linebackers, and you got decent guys like Spillane. And then corners, not great. They didn't have much. They weren't great like last year, though. They have a Wallace from the Bills, Witherspoon from 49ers, I believe, and Seahawks maybe. But you got just like their corners, they're gonna have some competition, but those are probably the starters. They're bottom of the line starters, but they're not gonna. They don't rely on them a lot, man. They have Fitzpatrick and Edmonds as safety with Killebrew as a special teams guy. They got KZ as well. I can rotate in there. I don't think it's spectacular, but with the scheme and how Pittsburgh is, I think they're going to be still pretty good and rank, top 10-ish. Go with the schedule. Again, they open up with the Bengals, probably a loss. New England, probably loss. Browns, going to be a tough game. Could win it. Jets. I think the Jets have a better quarterback than Zach Wilson over the Steelers, but team-wise, it's not big different. Like, I'll lean Steelers, but not by a lot. Again, Steelers won this Bills game week 1 last year. I think the Bills kind of just played into the hands of the Steelers and allowed them to win that game. Tampa Bay, tough game. I'm going to say they probably lose. Miami, it's tough, but I think Miami's a little bit better. Eagles probably will win that game. They had a history beating them. It's just how it's been. Saints, again, tough team against. Very even, but I shouldn't say very even, but I always think the Saints are a little bit better. They're playing more for all in this year. I think they'll lean the Saints. Bengals again. I think they'll probably lose to them. Colts, very tough team. Probably lose there. That's why the schedule is so tough. We got Atlanta. I'd probably say the Steelers win that. Ravens, maybe they win one again. Panthers, I'll pick the Steelers over the Panthers. Raiders, very tough. I could see the Steelers winning this, but I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think they have a little more talent. And then again, these two teams, again, very tough schedule. That's why I had them winning like 6 games. But just double check. Here, the 6-11 Steelers, 1-5 in the division. They're probably, they've had 18 straight winning seasons, or non-losing seasons, I should say. So, like, they could go 9-8. I don't know if I'm going to do that with new quarterback. They're going to run more of what the scheme they wanted to last year, but couldn't with Roethlisberger just because of the lack of mobility of their quarterbacks. Now they had the mobility a little bit. So, a lot of transition. This could be a transition year. No guarantee Pittsburgh continues the streak. Just like New England. They had the COVID year out in 2020. Cam Newton's a quarterback. He didn't play every game. They had a losing season. These streaks snap. It's no reason just because Pittsburgh had a bunch of winning years and non-losing years, I should say, that they're going to continue it. I'm going to assume they're going to have a losing season. So that's it. That's the whole AFC and NFC North. I'm glad if you stayed through this 50-minute video. And I'll try next week to do the AFC and NFC East. We're trying to get through all these divisions. Maybe we'll take a 2-week off break. Either way, we're going to try to continue these videos, and hopefully you guys enjoy them. And then after, when we get to the year, the regular season, we'll do some picks or previews to each game and what happened during the games after the games played out. Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and have a great day. Enjoy your 4th of July.